In 1922, there are names there back to 1922.
Because the dust was so thick. Thank you very much, Heather. Rudy Giuliani, you said you went to one of these men's funerals and the wakes of the other three.
Yeah, I remember. I consider them I always refer to the New York City Fire Department as my fire department, my firefighters. I love them. My uncle was a captain in the fire department. Then I had 5 uncles who were cops, and my uncle, who was a firefighter, used to say, I can take all 5 of you.
You know, when I was reading that story this morning.
You have to know these guys to really love them. And it's probably the reason why I get emotional when they get attacked. But I grew up with them, and then I grew up with them as a young prosecutor. You know, all my cases were with law enforcement, and the bravery they displayed. There's something in the 9/11 report that doesn't get enough attention. It means a lot to me, because when I arrived at the scene, I went to Chief Gansey, who was directing the rescue, and it was a horrific scene. I had seen a man jump from the 101st floor. I had seen 2 people killed by debris, maybe 200 yards, 300 yards from me. The police with me didn't want me to go down because they thought it was too dangerous to go down.
They were right.
But I had to get an assessment, because I had people think about the attack. They forget the fact that I had to protect the rest of the city. At that time, I was told that there were 7 more planes that were somewhere.
Yeah.
We knew there were a large segment of Islamic terrorists in Union City, New Jersey. They had bombed us in 1993. So I had to separate my police and my fire, so I had enough policemen to guard the rest of the city. So I went to see Chief Gansey, and Chief Gansey told me, you know, you got to point north. You got to get everybody up going north. Now, Chief Gansey lost his life that day. But he said to me, my guys will get everybody out below the fire. Meaning they couldn't go above the fire. And I was watching people on the building, top of the building, that were going to die. It was a horrible feeling.
They had a choice: be burned alive or jump.
Then I watched this man come down, and he's in my mind every day.
A jumper.
I think I kind of know him. You know, I keep thinking about the indecision that he must have had. Am I going to burn? Am I going to?
That guy fell close to where you were standing. You saw him.
He fell. Probably 4 football fields away, 5 football.
Did you ever find out who it was?
No, I never found out who it was, because it all got buried.
Right.
He was buried in the rubble that day. But the reality is, they didn't succeed in breaking our spirit, because the country came right back. New York City recovered much faster than anyone thought. Twice as many people live there now as before September 11.
While still making it a tribute center. There's a tribute center, there's a museum. You don't have to forget.
You don't have to forget. You can remember, and you can say to the terrorists, I got to find a nice way to say it on September 11th, you can't affect us. Resiliency is part of the defense against terrorism, but so is putting them on defense. And at the time that 9/11 happened, we were on defense against terrorism. We hadn't struck back against a coal. We had had minimal attacks when on embassies in East Africa were attacked. We were showing weakness, which in my study of Islamic terrorism, which I don't think anybody knows goes back to 1974, I am absolutely convinced, and no one will convince me of the opposite. When we show weakness, they take advantage of it. When we show strength, they back off. Also, it's a lot harder to plan an attack from a cave when somebody's shooting at you than it is when everybody's leaving you alone and you can sit there with your computer.
Rudy, we all remember how united New York City and the world was on September 11th, 15 years ago. Fast forward now, it seems like we're polarized.
It's a shame.
Seems like we've split.
We shouldn't be. Radical Islamic terrorism is a threat to all of us. Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals, socialists, independents, Americans, English, French,
deplorables,
Russians, all those deplorable people. It's a threat to them, and whoever the non-deplorable people are is a threat to them. They don't distinguish. We're all infidels. We fit in a nice big category that they have called infidels, and they want us either to submit or die, or in fact, there is a middle ground. We could pay tribute. That's the teaching of their interpretation of their religion. And unfortunately, it's become much more proliferated, much more complex, and much more intelligent. Al-Qaeda was the remnants of the people who fought off the Soviets and drove them out of Afghanistan. They were great warriors. Now, I don't mean they were great men. This is similar to what Donald Trump
were evil
was
warriors.
saying about Putin. He's a great leader. He didn't mean he was a good man. Hannibal was a great leader, and Caesar was a great leader. They weren't necessarily good men. Caesar was a dictator. But the Afghan warriors were not modern. They didn't understand the internet. They didn't understand us. Now we have these groups, ISIS being the main one, but there are 29 or 30 other groups. They come from us. They come from France. They come from England. They come from Germany. They come from the U.S. They understand us. They understand us better. They understand that smaller attacks like San Bernardino and Orlando and Boston Marathon and Fort Hood can shake us up.
Absolutely.
Almost as much as September 11th.
Go ahead.
We have a soundbite of you around 9/11. It might have actually been on the day after 9/11, after the attacks had happened, talking about what our country needs to do next. Let's hear that soundbite and then we'll discuss it.
This can happen anywhere in the United States or in the world, and therefore our goal has to be to end terrorism. And then the next goal that we have, and this is why I'm so happy that you came back to work and you're back tonight, people have to go back to normal. They have to not be afraid.
All right, so you said don't be afraid, go back to normal. Here you are with your red striped socks on, your red laces, you have your American flag on your lapel.
Yeah, if I could have any more, I would do it. If I could find any more symbols of America, I would do it. I'm so proud of my country. I'm so proud of how our country reacted to September 11. In the first hours after September 11, I'm sure, I was along with Governor Pataki in charge, but I was just like every other New Yorker, we felt alone. And then all of a sudden, the whole country rallied around us. Florida sent us people. Chicago sent us people. President Bush had FEMA up here within 2 hours with Joe Alba, who is one of the unsung heroes of September 11. All of a sudden, by the end of the day, we felt embraced by the whole country. You can't believe how important that was to giving me personal confidence.
Right.
And my people personal. We could get through it. We honestly had more help than we needed. And the country rallied around us. That's the way we should rally around radical Islamic terrorism. We shouldn't have these debates about, are they a threat, aren't they a threat? Should we put troops on the ground or shouldn't we? Of course we should put troops on the ground if we have to. We should never take that off the table. If you say to a radical Islamic terrorist, no troops on the ground, you just sent them a signal.
Sure.
Gigantic. You know the signal you sent them?
We're safe.
I can push you,
Absolutely.
push you.
We're not going to do anything. Right?
What have they been doing? Pushing. All over Europe. San Bernardino was less than a year ago. Just count the number of attacks.
Right.
Just count the number of attacks since San Bernardino.
A couple of things. General Jack Keane, when he was Secretary of the Army.
One of my heroes.
Right. He came to visit you when he got hit in the Pentagon, and he came to New York a couple of days later, and this is what he said. He says, I was impressed with what I saw. It was as organized as any military operation that I was a part of. That's a credit to you and people supporting. That was calm leadership that's written in your book. Number two is when you talk about a threat, Zawahiri said a couple of days ago, as long as your crimes continue, because we'll be delivering events like September 11th 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So they're not going away.
They're not going away. We didn't take bin Laden seriously in 97 and 98 when he declared war against us. If we don't take this seriously, and we're not taking it seriously enough right now, we're going to be in for a terrible, terrible time. We got to change it.
Sure.
Got to change it.
We know you've got a very busy day. We thank you very much for stopping by today, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It was 10 years after the attacks when America finally got some justice.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed